You are about to witness bodily dismemberment, sub-zero temperatures, and all-out mayhem. Brought to you by the Frontline Network.
What's up, guys, and welcome to the 20th Betacast, brought to you by the Frontline Network, presented by me, Tommy, and as always, FatalSaint. What's up, man?
What's up, Tommy?
And today we've got a very special episode. Many of you will know of our Expert Insight series, where we bring on COH experts who are sort of world-renowned for their skills at Company of Heroes. We've had him on before. It is the one and only Mr. Aimstrong. What's up, man?
Hello guys, it's good to be featured in a Company of Heroes 2 replay. I hope I'll be able to help.
Well, this is going to be our first ever Expert Insight for a Company of Heroes 2 shoutcast. Now, we had you on a couple of times for our Company of Heroes 1 shoutcast, where, of course, for those of you that don't know Aimstrong, he won many tournaments, in 1v1 especially. He was a real Wehrmacht expert. And here, he's hopefully going to be bringing his skills to the Company of Heroes 2 scene.
Yeah, I've been in retirement a bit, so that's what I would call it.
But you are playing in our tournament,
to
aren't you? On the June 28th, you signed up.
Yeah, I couldn't hold back. I thought I'm gonna give it a try. Let's see where it goes.
Well, we knew the $1,000 prize would tempt a few of the old vets out of retirement.
My old bones still ache, but I'm gonna give it a try. I'm excited about it. So that's actually how I got this replay. I needed some practice to be able to participate. So.
Yeah, and in this replay, it is Colony Firma, once again, the best 1v1 map out there for Company of Heroes 2 right now. And you're going to be playing against a player that we also know quite a bit about. It's Silence, who we have casted quite a bit in our Vico shoutcast. Very aggressive player, has a lot of quite unique play styles, and a very good player as well. He's done reasonably well in tournaments, never won anything, but done reasonably well, has a bit of a history, and done very well in order match as well. And he is going to be playing as the Wehrmacht in this game. Aimstrong, you're going to be taking on the Soviets, which I believe is sort of your second best faction, isn't it, so far? I mean, based on what you know from Company of Heroes 2 so far.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'd actually, up until this day that I played early on it, I had actually only played the Soviets and some 2 versus 2 for fun with Jeep, or 3 versus 3 with Sandland when we gathered at a meeting to play, all 3 of us. So
that's cool, yeah.
I was kind of green this day, and facing Silence here, it was during the night. It was a pretty scary sight because I hadn't played a really good opponent like Silence ever in Company of Heroes 2, to be honest. So facing him with the Soviets on my weak faction, that was something I was afraid of.
Now, you and Silence, you actually have a bit of a history, don't you? Because in the last major tournament that we had for Vico, you guys had a bit of a grudge match on Longra, if I remember correctly, when you had some pretty brutal games there. I remember we actually shoutcasted some of them. I can't remember. We'll stick a link in the annotations on the screen. You'll see them pop up right now to the link back to those Vico casts. But I believe there was a bit of a smack talk going on between you and Silence back there. So, bit of a grudge match, isn't it, going into this?
Exactly. That's why this meant
a lot of prestige riding
that I
on
should
it.
win this. Yeah, exactly. Because I think I snuck out a victory from him when I was at like 25 victory points because of some insanely lucky off-map combat groups.
Something like that. Yeah. No, it was very cool. And well, you've told us that this is going to be a very good replay as well. So I'm really looking forward to jumping into it and seeing what kind of strategies 2 great players are going to bring to the table in Company of Heroes 2. So, from the 5-second mark, if we're all ready to unpause, let's be unpausing in 3, 2, 1, unpause. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Straight off the bat, we actually have some good old Vico style of double Pioneer opening from Silence. He's building his tier 1 unit with his initial Pioneers, but he is extending it with another Pioneer, all nonetheless.
Okay. Now, Aimstrong, I see you're building a conscript straight off the bat. What were you thinking going into this game? What was sort of... Did you have a strategy in mind, or were you just going to sort of react based on what you knew of the faction?
First of all, I think as the Soviets, it's important to spread out your troops in the start, because I feel that they are, with the exception of the Guards versus the Pioneers, I feel like the Pioneers are really shit in this game. Then I feel the Soviets are subpar. I mean, I don't think conscripts are as good as a Grenadier squad. So it's important to get some territory in the beginning, and then when you see where he is, when you realize where he's sending his troops, then you can try and outnumber him. And that's what I wanted to try by spreading out here. And
so you're sort of playing the cap and harass game then, rather than going for early engagements. Okay.
And that's also why I prefer the top on this map, because if you get both victory points, then you won't have to worry about victory points running down. So that's why I'm going for a kind of some troops in the middle and then the engineers to the top to spread out that way.
Yeah, because we've commented on that, haven't we, Fatal, in previous casts on this map, the way that the map has sort of changed in the last few iterations, the way that they've changed the VP layout.
Yeah, exactly. Especially as the middle VP was moved down a bit to be exchanged for a munitions point, but it's just a singular munitions point now instead of two, you know, which was just outside of each player's base. So I think, as Aimstrong said, you have the two VPs in the north, so if you go for the north-centric approach, you can leave the southern part of the map alone, and you still won't get ticked down on VPs, because you have two up there and only one in the bottom.
I was surprised that he went for this 2 Pioneer opening. I didn't know just yet, but I realized very soon, because that's something I wouldn't do as the Germans, because I feel those Pioneers are so shit in combat. They're always...
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm of the same opinion of you as you really there, because the Pioneers, they really can't stand up to anyone in a 1v1, so I tend to sort of avoid them. But here, actually, you found conscripts versus grenadiers in close range. What's your experience so far of sort of ranges? Have you found a sort of a nice range to be engaging?
I feel like the grenadier versus conscript matchup is a bit like the Focus Grenadier rifleman matchup, but the conscripts, they aren't as strong as riflemen are compared to the folks. It's more like riflemen versus grenadiers. Not as strong, but he still has the advantage like that.
Yeah, and we saw there actually, even in close range, where conscripts tend to do a little better, still the grenadiers only lost one man and managed to send off your conscript squad, send them packing.
Yeah, I did get ganked up a bit there, because I didn't expect that second Pioneer, so now I'm kind of trying to soft retreat to get an overview.
Yeah, you're sort of backpedaling away, but at the same time I noticed that you're capping up in the north pretty much unmolested here with this combat engineer, and also in the center here with the conscript, because he is all down here in the south. Looks like, I mean, what kind of build order is Silence going for so far?
He's got 2 Grants and an MG, and he's gonna get a 3rd Grant also, which is producing right now. So, you know, a fairly standard build order right now in the current metagame, getting a few Grants and getting, you know, a machine gun, and, you know, extending it with more infantry if needed, or more machine guns for that matter as well.
And as you can see, I'm trying to stall for time in the buildings. I feel buildings are currently too powerful. It's really, they're really strong.
I think I would go with you there. Although it looks like Silence is well aware of your plan to stall out there, because he's going straight for a flamethrower with his first munitions. And actually, you've got a pretty nasty retreat path here. Oh!
It was a
that was a bit upsetting to lose a conscript so early.
Yeah, this game was in the night. You have to remember that. So now, with those conscripts down, I felt like, okay, I need to up the ante. I can't make a mistake like that again.
So you are rebuilding that conscript, so that's going to bring you up to 3, a total of 3 once again, and you also built yourself another combat engineer as well, but still no tier building, still just building out of your HQ.
Yeah, but I feel I like going for a unit composition of 3 conscripts and 2 engineers. I get the 2nd engineer as the last unit, because I think their minds are really powerful here. They're much more like how it was in Company of Heroes 1, where I feel that the Germans' minds it's very clunky to place them, because it's a minefield and it costs so much munition.
Yeah, you don't really see too many of them because they are so sort of time-consuming, and also it's a heavy use of resources there as well.
Nice stalling in the green cover of that P4 carcass. At the same time, a combat engineer coming in from the flank. That was nicely played, and that's actually going to force Silence to react and move his MG away.
But here you can see in this game the flamers, they can't attack while running. That's really annoying.
Yeah, that's one slightly odd change that they have made is to make flamers unable to shoot on the move. So it does mean that the power of sort of flanking flamers is a bit lessened. But I see you've still managed to get up behind this MG, and you're still doing pretty good damage here at point blank range.
But I had to watch out, or I would end up losing another squad. Like I lost that first one. The Grenadiers and the MG might have taken it out. So right now I needed to minimize risks so I could still be in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a real bloodbath so far. Both sides taking a lot of casualties, but I think you've definitely come off worse for wear here. I mean, your conscripts and combat engineers really getting hammered so far. And I notice one of the first upgrades you've gone for, if not the first, is the field infirmary. You've gone for the healing at your base.
Yeah, I really like that one. If you notice as well in Company of Heroes 1, I always love getting the triage because it's a good upgrade to get early on, so you save the most manpower, and I didn't really feel like I could get anything else. Maybe a tier building, but then I don't think the units are that good from tier 1 or 2, except for the clown car, as they call it.
Yeah, well, that's been getting a lot of usage lately, is the old flamer and sniper clown cars. But I mean, look at this now, Silence. He's almost got you in a base pin position here. He's taken all the important cutoffs. This is this is sort of classic Ver base pin play from Vico, and really nice to see that it still works in Company of Heroes 2. But for you, you've got to be a little bit concerned at this point.
I had a flashback to that game you mentioned earlier, where he also went for the pin on long rest.
And
combat engineer very low health against these two
another one
piles
goes down.
Two squads down.
Did you just knock out an MG there in the building?
Yeah, I just killed this MG there. That's what I was focusing on, and it seemed that he was focusing on getting the combat engineer without upgrades.
Okay, so you lost a combat engineer, but you killed an MG. I'd say that's a profit for you, but even so, it's a really bad position resource and territory-wise right now for you as the Soviet player.
I did connect the northern part of the map again, so I get resources now compared to
yes, you are still getting a bit of fuel. And I noticed one of the next things you've gotten, still sticking in tier 0, you've gone straight for shock troops as your next upgrade. Is that something that you've been doing regularly, or is that just was that sort of an oh shit moment, I need something else?
That's something I've been doing regularly. I feel like the Soviets need some more infantry units instead of 5, the 2 engineers and the 3 conscripts. But at the same time, at that point where you would get your 6th infantry unit, I feel like you might as well wait a bit, and then you can get the shock troops that are really awesome.
Well, when they get those PPSHs, they really do pack quite a fearsome punch. But I see here you are forced to retreat against those flamers in the building.
Yeah, flamers are actually pretty strong in this game compared to how they were in Company of Heroes 1.
Very strong, yeah.
It seems like they just deal steady DPS now, whereas in Company of Heroes 1 they dealt more damage to units in cover and almost didn't do anything in no cover and negative. At the same time, even though he has pinned me right now, I've had a 3-man conscript squad that's been harassing him in the south.
Yeah, I've noticed that going around and capping stuff, it's sort of, because Silence is so clumped up near your base, he has sort of neglected this, but now he's going to come back and probably force you off.
Yeah, it looks like that. I might be able to, I can't remember, I might be able to hide in the blizzard.
No, you're going to take the safe way out. I think at this point taking the safe way is probably necessary given the losses you've already taken. And I notice now Silence is back in that MG building. I sort of think that Silence has probably got this map marked down pretty well for himself, because it looks like his objective was to get an MG in that building. That was his prime objective.
Ooh, nice grenade from the shock troops into the building though. Does very little damage. That was surprisingly weak, honestly. As we mentioned in previous shoutcasts,
a lot of very lackluster
grenades sometimes just don't do much. Kind of like the potato mashers from Vico.
Yeah, sometimes they work like bundle grenades that kill everything. Now you can see I got 2 units now in that house.
Yeah, that flamer really went to town on that house there.
Nice,
so that might be able to
for the combat engineers.
Yeah, well, they just took out 2 units in the space of a couple of seconds, so...
He also has a flamer with veterancy too.
Yeah, we got 2 flamer for him as well, so I guess that's only actually gonna strengthen our point that flamethrowers in this game can do some crazy crits sometimes.
the use of flamethrowers. I don't feel like it's a satisfying unit to use. So, but when I recognized that he was getting 2 pioneers with it, I just knew that it seemed like he had a plan to begin with. That's part of his main army. That's something he is probably gonna do every game.
Something that has
not?
kind of equalized lately, however, is the army sizes from both you and Silence. Silence has lost quite a lot of units. He lost 2 of his 2 MGs, basically. Both of them died in that same building, as we mentioned before.
Whoa,
and he
and the
just lost
flamer.
another Pio. He's lost actually both of his Pios, and now he can't actually tech up. He can't build any buildings in his base. He actually teched to tier 3, so he can be able to put that up in his base and start producing some vehicles like a P4, Stug or Ostwinds, but he can't actually build anything in his base because you polished off both of the Pios that he opened up with.
And at the same time, I felt at this point, it's like a hunch you have in the game that I needed some anti-tank, because I hadn't seen any tier 2 units, and I was expecting him to get tanks sometime soon.
And so that is why you're now building your tier 2 building. So you're going to have access then to AT guns, so you should be safe against a potential tank, given that the tier 3 building is only just started building from Silence, so any kind of Panzer IV or Ostwind should still be a few minutes away.
But you also have to notice that the pioneers from the German faction builds much quicker than the Russian engineers does.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
He actually beat you to it. His tier 3 building is up now, and your tier 2 building is just finishing up.
Yeah, it's something I noticed as well when I played this. I thought it was because I only had 3 engineers building the building, but
they're just generally slower, actually.
Yeah, it seems that way. It seems a weird balance point. I don't really think it's on purpose.
Now, the map has sort of totally reversed positions now. Now it feels like you're the one who is sort of camped outside Silence's base. Having killed so many of his units, you've really stripped away his map control, taken or disconnected both fuels from him. So suddenly the tables have rather turned for you.
Yeah, and I think it's in part because he didn't get a medic bunker in his base, the one that heals his units. I feel that's really essential, no matter which faction you play.
So is that something that you've been doing a lot as Austin?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend getting a triage. Unless you somehow get a flawless game off where none of your units get low, then I really recommend getting it. Because
Silence have been moving out of his base with all of these, the low HP Grenadiers and Pioneers, actually. So, in every engagement, 2 of his guys drop very rapidly as they have low HP.
And that's why I think I was able to get back into the fight in part. But of course, that's an investment that I choose to make so that I have 1 less combat troop. And then he has that combat troop in form of a Grenadier, for example. But it's like a long-term investment to get those healing buildings.
So here's the first tank now on the field. He's got a Panzer IV straight off the bat. Your AT gun has just arrived, but you've got 1 AT gun versus the tier 3 building, which is now up and producing, and a Panzer IV that's already hit the field, and it looks like he's going straight for the base here.
Yeah, in this game, vehicle rushes work differently than in Company Furious 1, because Panzerfaust and the 18-8s that the Russians have are much better than sticky bombs or Panzerfaust in Company Furious 1. But you're able to make sure that he can't base rape you just by using the 18-8s.
So there we go, there's your 18-8 as well as 1 shot from the AT gun.
And I was actually surprised at this Panzer IV. I'm not sure if they had somehow snuck in a patch. They just seem to come so sneakily with Steam updating, but personally I think the Panzer IV is really bad.
It was buffed, yeah. I mean, a lot of people were complaining that the Panzer IV was very, very lackluster, but it was buffed in a rather major patch that hit just a few days ago. But yeah, I agree. It's probably that there are better alternatives in the same tier at the moment. But here you go. You're firing that light artillery barrage straight into the Panzer IV and knocking out a whole Pioneer squad that was repairing it.
Yeah, I noticed that he was repairing it, and then I felt it was a really good moment to actually use that artillery barrage, which is pretty expensive for what it does. But this was like a textbook moment of when to use it.
Now,
and then
yeah, go on.
The AT gun gets that tracking ability at Veterancy 1 that increases its sight ranges, and I think that's a really good ability. You shouldn't just disregard. You'll see I use it later.
Oh yeah, it's tracking. It significantly increases sight radius for 20 seconds. So that does sound pretty handy.
This was actually the first game as the Soviets for me where I didn't just get the shock troops, conscripts, combat ninjas, and then rush those T-34s, I think they're called. That battle tank.
Right.
Normally I do that, and then the game is actually over at that point. But now, since Silence had played so well, I needed to adapt and just do everything on the fly.
One point sort of worth thinking about is because there was one doctrine that virtually everyone went in the early versions of the beta. Like you would be seen as crazy not to go for it, which was it's a doctrine that gives you guards and hit the dirt and PPSHs on your conscripts. Almost everybody seemed to go for that doctrine, but lately we've seen a lot of people going for the doctrine that you've gone for, which is the one which gives you conscripts at the beginning, and then the KV-8, and then the IS-2 right at the end.
And cloaking AT guns too, isn't
and
it?
the cloaking AT guns, yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
did you ever use that hit the dirt doctrine?
Nah, I haven't used that at all. I really like shock troops. I really like Rangers and Company Force 1 too. So being able to get them at one command point really changes how the game works. Whereas you could never truly rush Rangers in Company Force 1 because they came so late. But here you can incorporate them into your strategy. And at this point in the game, I realized that if you look at my my resources, 240 fuel, and I'm at almost 4.5 command points, I realized that taking any further right now would be a waste compared to getting the IS-2. I'm actually stalling to get that.
Oh, I see what you mean. You're so close to the IS-2 anyway that you may as well just wait. Because I mean, yeah, I mean the IS-2 costs 300 fuel now in this patch. They really increased the fuel cost, so you're still 50 fuel away from being able to afford it. But by the time that you have that 50 fuel, you're probably going to have that fit CP as well. So
it's the first time I ever got one. So I was at this moment I was in the mindset, okay, I've been able to hold him off. I have some good control of the map. When the IS-2 comes, I'm gonna kill him like it was a Tiger in some of the early builds where it just went nuts and could solo the whole Soviet army.
Well, we've seen sort of IS-2s of varying effectiveness, haven't we, Fiddle? We've seen some IS-2s that come out and sort of get gang raped by Stugs. And
yeah, that's the main problem, I think. The tank destroyers really do a good number on the IS-2, but I think against P4s, they should be extremely effective, the IS-2s.
Well, it's a bit like the old Pershing Panzer IV dynamic, isn't it? I mean, Pershing is just 8 P4s for breakfast.
Yeah, exactly, but the Stugs were still, you know, a slight problem.
I wouldn't be so sure about what you're saying then, but I'm not gonna support
I'm hoping this IS-2 will do a good number on these P4s, and they shouldn't be able to penetrate it reliably, considering the difference in armor. But yeah, it remains to be seen what's actually gonna happen with a P4 versus IS-2 dynamic.
Let me put it like this: we had a really swinging relationship in this match.
It's gonna be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to that IS-2.
But with the new veterancy system, something I recommend is throwing 18-8s like your life depended on it, because you get veterancy from the damage you deal, and it deals a lot of damage to tanks, so it really helps your conscripts gain veterancy.
So even if you don't think that you're going to be able to kill the Panzer IV, you think just throw the 18-8 anyway?
Exactly. That was a dynamic in Company Furious 1 where some people would just throw stickies just to throw it, but in the end it was good for the German player because the American player, he lost munitions by throwing those stickies. But it's not so much that in this game because you gain so much veterancy. But
That's a very good point, I have to say, actually.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that, actually.
No, me neither, but now when you say it, it's perfectly obvious that, of course, that's how it is. You know, if you deal damage, you get veterancy, and veterancy makes your troops stronger, so you might as well, if you can, just do as much damage as you possibly can. Same thing with the Grenadier Faust. I don't know if I like that either, but...
Because that means it encourages you
to
do damage without needing a follow-up. It encourages you to not go in with support. It just means, you know, throw enough crap at the wall and see what sticks, and then, you know, eventually grind your opponent down.
Yeah, but as that's how it works right now, I see the points, you know, perfectly perfectly fine. That's, yeah, of course. Deal damage if you can deal damage.
I was a sharpshooter unit in the top. Yeah.
Deep
in the
snow and retreating
Yeah.
is still very slow. As long as there's deep snow around, it takes ages to get out of that.
Okay, so here's your IS-2 now. That was literally all your resources right there. All your manpower and all your fuel just went into this single IS-2. So you need it to do something good for you.
And in this moment, the tension for me, because I'm not that used to the weapons on the Eastern Front. So right now I was expecting it to go completely nuts. You'll see.
Wow, you're really driving straight in here. Getting in nice and close.
Since he he didn't build the tier 2, so
What?
it's hit back. As
Most
you
of
can
the
see,
first shot penetrates.
Wow.
What's happening? What's going on?
as you can see, it's a love-hate relationship.
Wow.
Another one.
Can you
IS-2
feel
is getting ganked.
The
Can you feel
previous
the-
game we casted, there were Stugs firing on the IS-2, and you know, I think there were up to 4 or 5 shots that was deflected, but this time not a single one. It's very random. It's a bit too random for me, honestly.
Yeah, I agreed. And at this moment, you should have seen the look on my face, because I was expecting it to kick ass, and now those Panzer IVs already rendered it pretty useless. It needs repairs now.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually in trouble now. If those P4s, if they both came together, they could probably go and hunt it down, especially as one of them now has got those armored skirts at Vet 2 with 16 infantry kills. So, you know, we were saying how rubbish the P4 was in earlier patches. I think suffice it to say, Tier 3 has now become a lot more viable. You know, recently we've seen Stugs really going to town, and now the P4s seem to have been buffed quite sufficiently, so I think it's time to start breaking out your Tier 3 again, guys.
Yeah.
Also, I do believe there was a conscript squad up in the north at the right-hand side VP gone down to yet another P4 from Silence. He's got 2 of them, and he's actually extending it with a 3rd one constructing right now.
Whoa!
What?
That was a whole grand.
Yeah.
Is that a mine?
Now that was the IS-2.
That was the IS-2, yeah.
Oh.
Just
Fire
fast
all
memory.
Finally
there.
showing
Oh.
what it could. I think a different aspect in this game compared to Company Furious 1 is chasing tanks that are low on HP because of the true side. In Company of Heroes 1 you could have these very wild chases where you just try to finish off a wounded tank, but here it's much harder. In theory, I don't think he can see the IS-2 right now, even though they're pretty close. So
No,
he
I don't think
can't
he can.
plan
I think
his
that,
attack.
I think that bush will be blocking him. I can even switch on the Fog of War and just... Oh no, you still have line of sight through the other side of that hedge.
I just turned on Fog of War as well. He doesn't.
He
He
doesn't.
can't
okay.
see anything.
Oh,
No, he
will
went
soon.
past. He still can't see it. He still can't see it because of that hedge.
But now he can.
Now he can. Yeah, now he can see everything.
This attack now, I remember people they say that that this game is much less micro-intensive than StarCraft. But
Look at all
in
this.
moments like this I couldn't keep up with everything that happened. It requires too much APM. I don't think a human can possibly micro everything right now.
Well, we've got
One
All
tank
of the
going down.
Soviet
Two
infantry
P4s
is getting
going down.
flamed to death by these Pyos, and 3 P4s into the fray, but 1 goes down.
Oh,
But
main
at
gun
the same
destroyed now on the
time,
IS-2.
IS-2 is in trouble, and the AT gun is in trouble as well, down to 2 men. He's actually not going to be able to reposition that before he gets
Oh,
deep
but the
movement.
Pioneer does go down.
Small victory.
I
And a
think.
P4 went down as well, so
And
that was
yeah.
a massive battle.
Now he wants to try and get it, but because of the way 18-8s work, he actually can't just walk straight into my base.
Nice,
And
yeah,
he knows
IS-2 is walking and well away, getting nice and safe in the base there.
Cannons all busted and everything.
Yes.
Can't even retaliate, can't defend itself whatsoever.
It's a pretty horrible situation right now. And I just heard that I lost another unit. But the units I have now, they are doing pretty well with veterancy. How does it compare to Silences?
Well, Silence actually lost his highly vetted Flamer Pio in that massive engagement, and one of the P4s, which I believe was, it just hit Vet 1 and then it instantly died after that. But you know, he's lost his FGs and his Grens, you know, during the game over and over again, so he hasn't really racked up that much Veteran C on his infantry, so he's got one Vet 2 Grand Squadron and some Vet 1 on another one, and Vet 1 on one of the Pyos. But he's basically rebuilding his Grens over and over again because they keep dying. Just basically like some of your infantry squads also keeps dying, like the shock troops, for example. They hit Vet 1 and then they get plowed by something.
Yeah. But right now, you need to stall for time right now to prevent him from actually trying to attack my base or cutting me off. That's why I actually cut him off now. And since he has so few units that are not spending time repairing right now, he's been cut off for quite some time from the south.
Yeah, he's lost a lot of his main capping infantry. He's still got some grenadiers out here. He's got one unit up in the north. He's got another unit there in the center. But yeah, you took that cut off a good few minutes ago, and it's only just now that he's getting back to cut it to get it back.
Silence had a bit of a stockpile of manpower, so now he's basically just spamming everything he can afford. He just got the fuel to build a new third P4, but basically he added another 2 pioneers to his army now, just most likely to be able to repair these P4s a little bit quicker, especially when they get 18-aided, and he wants to get rid of the damage very fast. And he's also replacing all of his dead grenadiers, so he had quite a lot of manpower saved up as he was busy doing that massive battle in the center. So, you know, his manpower stockpiled for a while.
And I just got out another AT gun.
Yes,
for obvious reasons, yeah. I feel right now with that lackluster.
And eventually you're going to steal an AT gun back, hopefully. If you can get this one back, 2 AT guns, that'll be quite fierce against these P4s.
I feel it's actually really hard to kill the crew manning the AT guns now with infantry.
Well, it's those 6-man crews now, aren't they? I mean, they're huge.
6-man crews, and I think there's a different balance between infantry attacking them than compared to company fuels one. It's like they don't hit us often as they did. If you notice now, those grenadiers they chased just before now that 3-man AT gun squad for quite some time and only killed 1 person with him using one of those rifle grenades.
Yeah, the rifle grenade was actually nicely dodged by you. You actually, when you started seeing the animation, the AT gun packed up and started moving away.
Not just animation, they also yell out for rifle.
Yeah.
That's something I didn't know when I'd only played the Germans. I was really impressed that everyone kept dodging them compared to Molotovs, where there's no voice acting to warn. I focused down the building now with the MG in it because it was so low, and if it gets destroyed, he loses a whole unit. You'll see.
The IS-2 against these 2 P4s again.
Now he's actually deflecting some shots at least. Not every single shot fired by the P4s is penetrating, so IS-2 is trying to reclaim its honor or something, I don't know.
At the same time, the Panzerfaust doesn't seem to take any damage from it.
No, not when they hit Vet 2, and that actually significantly increases the reduction in damage taken, so basically it's technically a HP buff.
And a pretty good one at that.
Yeah,
it's the reason I opted to destroy the building now. You can see when he tries to leave it, you can see that's something you couldn't in Company Fuels 1, but you can check it now, so it's easier to try and focus it down.
Flamer, Pio, Vet 2, I think Vet 1 at least went down in the south here at one of the strategic points to a Vet 2 country squad, or 2 Vet 2 country squad. One of them actually went over to help out. So another Pio down, leaving Silence with 2.
And this is the Panzer division now facing.
Yeah, 3 P4s. I can tell you want to finish off that Vet 2 one.
Yeah, it's also a risky situation because when you don't know the unit balance, and if the IS-2 was as lucky as it was in the beginning, then this would be a one-way trip.
Had a Stuka dive bomb on the AT gun. Yeah, there was on the center. He most likely got line of sight from the point itself when it was in his possession.
And I finally moved the AT gun to back up the IS-2. He decides to opt for not moving in.
Well, you did manage to finish off Panzer IV there, and you managed to keep the IS-2 alive, and actually, well, only just about alive, but it is alive nonetheless, so that was quite a nice win for you.
I lost my Veteran C3 engineer, so that was a shame. They had really fought well.
Yes, that was a shame, although you do have a Vet 3 conscript squad, so they're pretty tough.
They are, but I can only hope to imagine how they do with the PPASH.
Yeah, all Vet 3 shock troops for that matter as well. Very, very powerful because obviously they come with the elite armor as well.
And they get so durable with Vet 2 and 3. They get extreme durability, and the survivability of the squad just skyrockets into the sky, basically.
I'm gonna give a little tease about Veteran 3 shock tubes. I'm not saying anything else, but wait and see.
Really?
If you thought Veteran 3 Rangers were the best unit in a Company of Heroes game, you thought wrong. Let me put it like that.
I look forward to it. Speaking of shock troops, you just got a second shock troop squad, again upgraded with PPSHs, so now you've got 2 of those, 2 conscripts, 1 combat engineer, 1 AT gun, and the IS-2. The IS-2 is sort of, it's the keystone, it makes your army really. Besides that, it would be a lot harder to fight Silence's army composition right now, but because you have the IS-2, you have a sort of a center point. Now, you sort of treating the IS-2 a bit like how you can treat the KT in Vico, and that you sort of base a strategy around it?
KT and the Tiger. It fills the same role as they do. It's versatile and it can tackle any unit except for stocks by the sound of it for you guys. So yes, I would say so. But it also has its limits, as you've seen. Considering it's been in the game for like 10 minutes, it only has 13 kills. That's not something you would see in Company of Heroes one day. It would have many more kills there. And now Silence has concentrated all his units in the bottom. He's got a mortar, I guess, for the AT gun and a pack that he hasn't revealed yet. But that was something that surprised me.
And here comes your IS-2 here to lay in the hurt on all of these Grenadiers, as well as shock troops up in the rear. This is a nice little attack for you, potential to do a lot of damage.
First, Vet 3 unit for Silence.
Nah, he's had a Grenadier earlier.
Oh yeah, that might have been gone down. I think maybe one of his Pyos also were Vet 3 with the Flamer before it went down as well. But at least this is the first one that's survived more than a few minutes.
And now I realized he had a pack, so I had to pull out the Stalin tank. And I went through the south here because that's the safest way to back out compared to going from the north. That's something you always need to keep in mind with your unit's movement.
Yeah, I very rarely see that on Kolodny, people actually using this exit from the Soviet base, apart from the initial stages of the game. Everybody always exits from the center.
It's in this game, it's proved really effective to break the pin he had in the middle. Getting an MG into that building is really a pain in the ass, the way building armor works now.
Yeah, the garrison bonus now is extremely potent, and it can be extremely hard to get things out of buildings. It's just like the soft counters doesn't really work in this game. Small arms fire just doesn't work. Even if you get 3-pronged attacks on buildings, etc. You need a hard counter like Molotov, for example, or a mortar.
Indeed. You can't flank around the building like you could in Company of Heroes 1. That's just not an option anymore.
Yeah, I think that's something they ought to get right on, actually, and just tune it. It just needs a little bit of tweaking. It doesn't need a massive, nerf hammer hit on it. It just needs a bit of tweaking, really. Just make it a bit more possible to, with overwhelming flanking numbers, if you flank a building from 2 directions or 3 directions with 3 squads, for example, you should fairly easily be able to de-garrison whatever it's sitting inside.
Now in the bottom, he had put his pack right in front of the person. There was the IS-2. They just couldn't see each other. So when I moved out, he got a good hit on me because I'm backing out now.
Another mediocre shock troop grenade goes into these Grenadiers here in the center.
A Veteran 3 AT gun dealing insane amounts of
Panzer IV goes
damage.
down. That's a nice little win.
It looked like he had 3-shot it almost. I'm not sure about these AT guns the Soviets have. Sometimes they deal insane amount of damage, and other times it just doesn't put a dent on them.
I'm not sure if it's something that basically they hit right in front of the tank and it's splash damage dealt, but Veteran C really has a big part in it because it gets extra damage for basically Vet 2 and 3. So they will start dealing, amazing amounts of damage when they get Veteran C.
Well, these shock troops just came in the back here, decrewed the mortar, decrewed
They're
the
a bit
pack.
outgunned!
Yeah, but Silence had spread out his troops a bit too thin. His supply lines, if you could call it that, were exposed, so he lost a mortar and a pack, and that's it. Now he has to reinforce them.
226 to 226. It's
For
neck and neck, really. Like literally the same amount of VPs.
And imagine if I hadn't gone for the top in the start, then I didn't have as much leverage to break the pin. Then there was more pressure on me to do it because he focused on the middle and he had the south, and he may have got me off for some time, but I still had those VPs ticking in my favor.
The big tank destroyer of tank destroyers has hit the field for Silence now. He is done building these P4s. They had a good run in the initial engagement with the IS-2, but after that they've been failing, especially with the AT gun backup.
Why, what is it he's got now?
He's got something that properly outranges the IS-2. The Elephant tank is on the field.
Ah.
But even though the Elephant tank has just arrived, the Aimstrong has heard from the Soviet HQ that the IS-2 is gonna get a brother very soon. Put it like that.
Ah, well, yeah, actually, I see you are ticking up to 298 fuel now. Just 2 measly fuel away from being able to afford a second IS-2 for yourself. Yeah, I mean, double IS-2s is, well, that's a lot of pain right there for an austere player.
It's a really interesting scenario right now, because he may have gotten his Elephant with insane range, but it's in the middle of a blizzard, so he's actually not able to use it to its full advantage right now.
Ah, so you're going to take advantage of this blizzard, are you? Because you just called in this second IS-2.
I didn't realize he had the Elephant now. It had only shot like two shots, and I was busy microing my units. But you can't just ignore blizzards. They're part of the game, and since I have the middle now, there's always a defender's advantage in a blizzard, I'd say. Because of the way the line of sight works, it's almost impossible, and of course it's gonna be a pain in the ass to fight warm troops with frozen troops. They get a debuff, shoot faster, shoot slower, and move slower.
Silence is once again moving out of his base in force. All of his grenadiers are basically exiting the base, apart from one squad up north, which just capped the VP there.
And now I've seen the Elephant with my Northern IS-2 tank.
Yeah, you just opened up
sure
on
how
it
to
here
approach this situation.
from the flank, doing quite a lot of damage actually with your first hit.
Moving my AT gun that is cloaked and moving at turtle speed, just decloaking it. I kept in mind that the Elephant it has a fixed main gun, so it can be flanked. And with that,
you're doing
AT
a
gun.
lot of damage to this Elephant now. I mean, the Elephant has a lot of health and a lot of armor, but here you go, that Vet 3 AT gun.
I snuck in and stole his pack too that I killed with some troops.
Yeah, look at that. You're actually just out of the arc of fire from the Elephant with the stolen pack. But that Vet 3 AT gun is doing a real number on that Elephant. It's already down to 25% health.
The Elephant didn't penetrate the IS-2 with one attack. I just
P4 is surely going to go down now when this IS-2 chases him.
Maybe he's trying to hide behind the wrecked church building, and there goes the Elephant actually from the stolen pack, which has actually netted that stolen pack Vet 2 already from dealing damage to that Elephant.
He's trying to retreat with the Panzer IV, but now I was intent on taking out that Panzer IV because I knew he had so little armor troops, and if I could eliminate them all, then the IS-2's value would rise since he didn't have a count.
You're really going all out to try and finish him off. Obviously, you've got to watch out too, because although you've got 18-8, he's got Panzerfaust. They fill very similar roles. But there you go.
The potential pack, I felt, although I was lucky with regards to the latter.
The main bulk of Silence's army is actually mainly dead. All of his armor is
gone.
dead.
Yeah, all the armor's gone. He's got a big wall of grenadiers, but he needs to start building up another armored column if he wants to take on these IS-2s.
At the same time, Silence has this one Gren squad which has been harassing the north. He capped the VP close to his base, and he capped also the northern fuel, and he's now going for the second VP on the left-hand side.
And I don't have any engineers currently, so I had to use manpower to get it and then be able to repair. And I could hear the bomb going down somewhere, so I just retreated.
Retreat both, yeah, well, play it safe. There it goes. Lands, I think IS-2 did a little bit of damage there. Took a licking.
It's gotten pretty low though, so I have 2 IS-2s now that could potentially be destroyed
Both be
by a
nailed,
lucky
yeah.
tech.
So, I mean, he's far from out of it, Silence, but he does need something mobile to go and chase you down with. He's opted to go for Panzer Grenadiers. I guess he's probably going to be upgrading to Shreks on those. That's not a bad idea, actually. Double Shrek P-Grens at this point in the game.
If you notice at the top fuel point, you can cap with anti-tank guns here in Company of Heroes 2, and I just wanted to press that
cloaked
advantage.
anti-tank guns. even more disconcerting.
Cloaked AT guns and cloaked snipers can cap everything. And you can cap during blizzards in heavy snow. You get also get camouflage, so you can cap them as well.
It was really a bad timing because I was thinking I gotta get the hell out of here, and then I decloaked it just as the gang came, if you could call it that.
Yeah, well, they're here in force now.
You'll see real Russian strategy now, because for obvious reasons I didn't want to give him it, so they had to pay the ultimate sacrifice if you
Oh boy. Oh wow, Incendiary Barrage all over your own AT gun.
It was just important because I had those 2 low tanks, and any kind of AT in his hands would be really valuable for him right now. Since if he got that, then I wouldn't be able to just harass with guys. The Firestorm is it works kind of different than it does in Company of Heroes 1, though. It's much more damage over time now than it was earlier.
Yeah, it does a lot of damage sort of for the first couple of seconds, and then the damage sort of slowly wears off. The dot damage goes down. Grenade on the P-Grens. There was a proper grenade now. That was a nice shock troop grenade.
Oh, we had 3 shock troops. Might polish off them on retreat as well. That P-Gren squad was not on the field for a very long time before they met up with these elite infantry from Aimstrong's army, these shock troops. We have 3 now. Let's see if they can keep on dealing the damage.
Sooner you'll see why I've come to nickname them the 300s.
Oh god.
Even though they're 6, but you'll see.
Well, I can see the Grenadier army are now heading out to meet and greet your shock troops.
But it's interesting. He forced one of my IS-2s, and I got to like 30 health, 30%, and that's something you couldn't do in Company of Heroes 1. With an IS-2 with 30% health and a damage engine, that's not something you want to have out on the field because he could potentially come with a pack. So I have to repair it, and it's off the field, and that gives him a chance to come back into the game.
Yeah, and he does have actually some hard counter AT now. A new pack has been produced for his tier 2 building. It's just because Aimstrong has been so good at harassing, so he hasn't had a proper steady fuel income, so he can't really produce any more tier 3 units anymore, and he's opted not to do it as there's 2 ISTs on the field now, I guess. So,
oh god, it's the vet 3 shock troops.
It's a 300. And now just notice this, it's completely broken in this patch. If Relic watches this, you need to fix this. Just look at it. What's going on?
So many squads firing.
Oh, there's a big grenade. Does some good damage. There's one of the Grenadier squads here.
But they're not taking damage. We're talking 16 full-grown men from the Germans attacking these 6.
Actually, it looks like he could even lose his Vet 3 Gren of his own. The one wielding the light machine gun does go down.
He's reached a point where I think it was during the night, and now he was just as flabbergasted at what the fuck was
Why
going.
won't they die? What is going on? What's happening?
These guys are pretty insane. They're taking some damage, but just not losing any men. Wiping out
the
squad
entire
after
German
squad.
army.
Oh my god.
Even though they got reinforcements in the end, I would dare to say that Vet 23 shock troops can actually destroy 16.
That was a massacre. That was a war crime.
It's moments like that remind you that it is the beta. There are some things that need to be changed, and Vet 23 shock troops. I'm not sure what part of them it is that just made them invulnerable. He even had a Vet 23 Grenadier squad in that fight, and the only difference was they took extra long to kill. But I mean, from Silence's perspective now, he lost his infantry. He actually only has a pack on the field.
Yeah, he's lost everything, and the pack actually gets decrewed by shock troops and IS-2, and both of them have been repaired now, so I guess there is not much longer for silence in this world.
I can't see the chat, but I remember at this point he threw in the towel, wrote a GG, and it was kind of in the cards. If you look at my units to veterancy, and I got a good army, and he has nothing. It's virtually impossible to do anything.
Yeah, it looks like he is well and truly been counted out of this game, and the double IS-2s come to steamroll things right at the end. But that was, I mean, that was great for you to be able to walk us through your strategy there. So shock troops, they're pretty integral to your strategy right now. Would you say they would be as integral even if their veterancy wasn't as powerful?
I would, because if you have, in his case, he had, if you think about it, there was a point where I had almost no units, really. Like, I was down to 4 or 5 units, most of them being conscripts and engineers, and they didn't have that much veterancy. And he, at that point, had these veterancy 3 grenadiers or veterancy 1 grenadiers, whatever. But the shock troops, veterancy 0 shock troops with the PPSH, they can stand up to any kind of infantry he has. Maybe with the exception of Panzer Grenadiers, who are also veterancy 3, but I've yet to see that. So the shock troops give you the option to keep sending in infantry that's good for the whole game. The only point they're weaker than the regular conscripts are the Molotovs, in a way, because the Molotovs deal more damage over time for a building, whereas the nades may not be as good. And then the 18 nades, of course, which it's integral to have some conscripts that are able to throw those nades.
I think what's really good and sort of very much feels very Aimstrong, you know. I mean, I've seen so many of your replays, you know. I love your playstyles in VCAR, and you know what really makes me realize this is definitely an Aimstrong style of play is that it's not relying on sort of the popular gimmicks of the day right now, which is right now sort of the clown cars with the flamers and the snipers and stuff like that.
M3 scout cars, yeah.
Yeah, because that's probably on the way out. You know, that's probably going to be patched away in all likelihood within the next few months. But stuff like this, you know, sort of more general play styles about sort of an early sort of cap and harass style with the conscripts into the shock troops, and then as you said earlier, you know, in any other game you would then just go straight into T-34s, right? Because they counter most things at the moment.
T-34s, and then always build the tier 2 so that you have the option to get those AT guns out if the T-34s are not enough. Yeah.
Because that's something that we've really, and I commented on this in one of the last casts we did, we see so many Soviet players who end up losing to heavy armor like we saw in this game because they just don't build AT guns. And as we saw here, you need those AT guns, and if you can get them vetted, they are extremely useful. Even if they're not actually getting the kills, they're still doing constant damage and they keep the armor off your back.
Especially with the cloaked AT guns. That's a really nice perk that helped me. In this game, there were some points where he was moving in to attack, and then he couldn't actually see where the AT guns were because of that cloak. And it's just it's a nice carryover from the packs and company views, man. I really like that ability.
Yeah, I mean, because that's why, you know, that's half the reason why packs were so much more useful than 57s in VCAR, of course. You know, you would see 57s from time to time, but you would see packs in, you know, almost every game, because why not get a pack? You know, it can just sit there cloaked for when you need it in a rainy day.
It's kind of reversed in competitive eras too, actually. I find the Soviet AT gun, especially with the cloak ability, being just much better than the Pack 40 of the Austria army. The pack just seems so lackluster to me. I don't know why. It's just most likely because the tank destroyer tanks, especially the Stuks, is just like so much better. They will steamroll everything that's medium armor. T-34s, they just instantly minced by a Stug. There's not even, you know, a somewhat fair matchup. The Stug will basically win every time.
The Stug is a monster.
It is.
There's no doubt about it. But just to say it again, it's like you go this infantry focused strategy. You skip tier 1 with the clown car, the scout car, because you want tier 2 instead, so that you have the option to get the AT guns out. You don't want to invest the money into the tier 2 building later on, because then you would preferably be spamming shock troops with that manpower you would have, or you would be building tanks, be it T-34s, or in an extreme match like this where there was so much fighting that the CPs came out so early, then you can potentially save for the IS-2, which is, after playing this match, I would say it's a good tank, even though it had its ups and downs.
You've got to have a good rock solid understanding of it, but yeah, I think it can be used well. Obviously, it is much more expensive now in this current patch at 300 fuels, so it's not something it's not an investment you would want to make lightly. But obviously, if you have the fuel for it at the time, then of course, you know, why not? Now, one of the things that you've been telling me about in the last few days, Aimstrong, is we'll have to get you on for another expert insight with your austere play, because I know that you've got a pretty distinctive austere style as well, which I really do want to see. So hopefully we'll get you on within the next couple of weeks, maybe just after the game goes retail. Maybe, of course, if you can, if you go on to do well in the tournament, we can see a bit of your austere play then.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's been something I've been cooking on. Austria has been the army I've been playing the most. I think I've played it like 10 or 20 times as much as the Soviets right now. I actually felt that the Soviets were overpowered at one point just from playing Austria, and I thought, nah, I wouldn't make that. I wouldn't feel that the Soviets are overpowered just because I haven't played them. But that was a bit too arrogant. From playing the Soviets, I actually think it's a pretty balanced game, although I haven't been beaten when using my Austria strat yet. I'm just gonna give a little tease out to people. I'm not using snipers. It's not part of my build order in this game.
There's been a lot of talk actually about, you know, what's Aimstrong doing these days, and everyone say, oh, he must be doing Voltball Sniper MG, yes, but no, he's not. You'll have to wait until we get you on again to see what you're really up to.
But until then, I just want to say, if you're incorporating a sniper into your build order, then you could probably raise your win ratio with 20% if you exchange it for a Grenadier squad.
Yeah, well, I'm sort of the same opinion really, but we'll have to leave that to another episode. But thanks guys for watching. Do let us know in the comments what you thought. It's great to have Aimstrong on once again, and there are a whole host of other experts, including new up-and-comers as well, that we're going to try and get on over the next few weeks and months, and indeed years, as Company of Heroes 2 matures in its metagame, and we are really looking forward to that. So do leave us a comment, share it on Facebook and Twitter, and we will see you guys next time.